Good morning, everyone, and Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining us this morning. We are really pleased to have our partner, Marc Abshire from the Port Angeles Chamber, join us this morning to talk about what the Chamber is doing. And we know that Marc has been super busy, and we asked him to do this with less than a week's notice since Congressman Kilmer had to cancel his presentation because he's still stuck in Washington, D.C. So just a few housekeeping details. If you'll keep yourself on mute so we don't get any background noise. And also, if you have any questions, we've got a small group this morning. So you can just raise your hand and we'll call on you. And Marc, I'm sure, would be happy to answer any questions you might have. So with that, Marc, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. I'm happy to help out. I apologize to a couple of you who probably have heard some of this stuff we're going to be talking about this morning if you came to the Chamber luncheon last week. There are a couple here that were there. So that said, we do have some exciting things going on. The Winter Ice Village is really doing well. We are breaking records this year in terms of participation, and we are positioned in a way that to really take advantage of that as well financially, which is important when you consider some of the other stuff I'm going to be talking about this morning. So we were able to get a grant from the county lodging tax to actually purchase parts of the ice rink this past year that we no longer have to rent. So over the season, this is our 5th season, and over the different seasons, we've been able to purchase different parts of what is required to actually have the rink down there. For example, we own the tent that covers it now, and we own all the little buildings, the sheds that we use. That we used to either rent those or they were donated by Red Sheds, but we now own those as an example. But through the lodging tax, we were actually able to purchase skates and skating aids and the dasher boards that go around the perimeter of the ice sheet. So there's just lots of parts that are no longer an expense, to put it on each year. And so our expenses are going down. And this year, our revenue is just really skyrocketing. There's a lot of people skating. It's really a joy to see kids who came to skate in our first season who were like Bambi on ice. And now they're out there, cutting turns and doing twirls and all kinds of things, because this is their 5th year, and they're just kids with smiles on their faces. So it's a wonderful thing for the community. But I have to be honest, especially with this group, because we care about economic development. Honestly, the first impetus or purpose for the Winter Ice Village in downtown Port Angeles was to try to drive to establish an anchor, really, to build a more vibrant winter economy in Port Angeles and really the North Atlantic Peninsula, giving people reasons to stay and come here and generate more activity, more commerce in the winter months. And just knowing that that's not something you do overnight. It takes years to build something like that. But the ice rink was envisioned as something that would, if we can do this, then we can start building on that. And so, for example, we also added a few years ago, we added the PA Panto as another chamber activity, which we've now spun off to JFFA, where it really kind of belongs anyway. But we were happy to get Panto going. It's a reason for Canadians, for example, to come to Port Angeles, because Panto is a typical British tradition over the holidays. And so Sorry, my daughter's calling, which doesn't happen this time of day. So I'm like, what's she calling about? So the Panto is going to hopefully draw, Canadians to come over across the water over the holidays and that kind of thing. So, and then we'll also,
Mark,
yeah, go
for
ahead.
people that don't know what a panto is, can you
Yeah.
share with them a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, so Panto is short for pantomime, which is really it's a musical melodrama. So you got the villain, and you got the protagonist, and you got just a really it's all comedy, it's all poking fun. Usually in the British tradition, you have sort of known people in the community who take on hilarious roles during the pantomime, and it's usually written in a way that it's got adult undertones, but it's really written for little kids. And it's family friendly. It really is. But there's undertones that are in there. Almost like when you watch one of the Pixar movies or something. They've got jokes that only grown-ups are going to really get, but it's great for kids too. So pantomime kind of works that way. And the other aspect of it is it's audience. It's meant to be audience participation. So the audience is supposed to, boo when the villain comes out. Everybody's supposed to boo, and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a lot of fun, and it goes back, decades, if not hundreds of years, in British tradition. So anyway, it's we're trying to do that here too, because you don't see many of them around, and so that's going really well. But back to the ice rink, it's actually proven to be pretty successful. We didn't know if we were going to pull it off, and although it started out really as an economic driver, it's actually become a community building activity. So the only way that it financially works is, well, first of all, we had to get lodging tax dollars to make it work in the very beginning, together with very generous sponsorships from some of our local businesses. But other than the lodging tax fund money we got this last year to purchase a capital investment in it, we have not used any lodging tax dollars for operation of the ice rink for 2 seasons now, or 3. So we're not using lodging tax dollars to put that on, but we are using hundreds and hundreds of hours, thousands of hours actually, of volunteer time. And we still have very generous sponsors that also make it possible to actually pull it off, because I've got big bills to pay for that thing. I have to make 4 payments to the ice rink company, and those payments are getting smaller now because we own a lot of the stuff. So but I do have to make 4 payments, and they're it's painful to write those checks when you're a little nonprofit like the Chamber of Commerce. So our sponsors really make it possible for us to be able to do that, and we really appreciate it. So kind of the message this morning, though, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the ice rink if we want to pause there. Maybe, does anybody have any questions? Because I'm going to move on to different topics. So
sure. How many people are you getting each day? And does it usually spike right around Christmas? I mean, I think of all the kids that come to visit grandparents. That's happening here. As you were talking, I was thinking, oh, my brother's kids are here. I'm definitely going to tell them we got to go do that.
Yeah. So every year for 5 seasons, our busiest day of the entire season is always Friday after Thanksgiving. And we get almost 600 skaters that day. And the second busiest day is the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So that's the reason why we open the Friday before Thanksgiving, because we're up and running. We still have hammers going and drills and things for a week or so after we open, but by Thanksgiving, we're pretty well set. And so we're ready to serve all those folks that want to do that together. So, and then school starts up again. And then, so during the school days, we're much lighter in terms of attendance. But as soon as school lets out, over the Christmas break or the holiday break, it actually we don't really get spikes, but we get just an increased swell. It's like a swell of activity that comes in. We just get a lot more skaters, but not in the huge numbers that we get the day after Thanksgiving and the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I see Dr. Maxwell has a question for you.
Yeah, thanks, Colleen. Hey, Mark, hats off to you, man. I know that's a lot of work, and you're probably doing a lot of the physical labor on this thing in volunteer hours. So thanks for all you're doing, you and your team.
Yeah.
I was just sort of curious if if you mentioned this was sort of to be a magnet to increase business, traffic downtown and boost businesses in downtown corridor. Have you had a chance to collect any data? It's been contaminated by the by the pandemic, obviously, but did it have any of those effects on increasing use of businesses downtown? Do you know yet?
Yeah, I don't have empirical data, so I do not have that, and I'm not sure. It'd be kind of tough to really get that kind of data. But talking to all the business owners, it's absolutely had a huge impact, especially on the smaller retail shops and things. Just the general traffic, the restaurants. So as an example, we don't serve food at the Winter Ice Village on purpose. We've had many opportunities, especially with food trucks and that sort of thing. We could have done that, but we stayed away from it because we serve snacks, and hot chocolate, but we don't serve any food because we want people to go to the restaurants, which they do. And I guess somewhat empirically, I can say that there are retail stores that before the ice rink, even in the middle of December, before Christmas, they would close at 6 o'clock, 5 or 6 o'clock, even right before in the middle of the holiday crush. They're staying open now till 8 or 9 because it's worth it. So they actually have business. So that's not really empirical data, but it is it's anecdotal kind of, and we can see that it is making a difference. And then we do have numbers. We do have empirical data on our skaters. So I can tell you that like last season we had about 20,000 skaters skate down at the ice rink, and I can tell you how many of them came from outside of Clallam County, because everybody that gets on the ice has to sign a waiver, and the waiver asks them for their zip code. And so I can track them from their hometown. So that part is very useful. And just knowing that there's roughly 15 to 20,000 people who are downtown who would not otherwise probably be downtown, I think just the math says there's going to be some more commerce going on in the businesses surrounding that location. So
Mark, this is a brilliant idea. And congratulations for doing it. Whose idea was it? What did you think when they first came up with it?
Well,
Unless it was your own.
Yeah, honestly, it was actually Tim Tucker's idea.
Okay.
Years ago. I think Tim had this idea maybe 10 or 12 years ago, and he just didn't know how we could pull it off, And so then I showed up, and he saw a gullible, naive chamber director who would maybe go for it. So he brought it up, and he brought it up in the presence of Edna Peterson. So the three of us kind of had a head to head, and I basically said, I don't think it'll work. I said, I'll do some research. And so I did a bunch of research. I looked at different, companies who provide, rental equipment and the costs. And I talked to some towns, cities that were doing the same thing. And by the way, most cities, the city funds their ice rink. If you go to, I don't know, Temecula, California, you'll see an ice rink there every season. It's paid for by the city. And they have hired employees that run it. Nobody in America does what Port Angeles does with our ice.
Wow. So do you track your revenues and expenses by enterprise? And if so, do you know if you're breaking even or even making money on this project?
Absolutely. We do track. Everything at the chamber is tracked by no matter what it is, the 4th of July, the hurricane, the winter ice village, it's all
Yeah.
line itemed. And so we know the one small difficulty, and you'll appreciate this, Colleen, the one small difficulty is the winter ice village bridges over the years. So, it flows into 2023 now. And so some of the numbers,
Right.
revenue and expenses, are going to be 23 numbers, not 22 numbers. So it's a little bit, year to year, you can't really track it very, it's a little more difficult. It's just a little more challenging. But yes, we can track how it's doing, and we lost money, frankly, because of COVID, when we couldn't do the ice rink in 2020 to 2021. So rather than do it over the winter, we moved it to the spring for spring break, and we lost money. Not a lot. We lost about, I don't know, maybe $5,000 or so, which is nothing compared to the total cost. So we lost about $5,000 in the spring, mainly because people don't really feel like ice skating when it's warm outside and that kind of thing. So, and we were only open for 4 weeks, so we had less time to collect the revenue on that.
Do you allocate your time to it and your staff's time when they work there?
No. I'm a volunteer, just like everybody else down there. I put in so many hours. I'm not getting paid for the ice rink.
But okay. So if you did, so it really is a community support event and something you're doing to help the local businesses downtown. And what percentage of people are from Clallam County? Since you said you track that.
Yes, I do, and I don't have it on the top of my head, but I recall, I think it's about 85% are Clallam County residents. So we get, I think we get about 15% from outside of Clallam County, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have 20,000, it's a pretty good number,
Right. Sure.
So.
Mark,
Well,
I thought it was so endearing, the story about the company, how much they all fight to be the ones that get to come out to PA.
Yes, it's true. They it's called Ice America. They're a subsidiary of Ice World, which is based in the Netherlands. And the CEO is a guy named Scott Williams, and he was the guy who lost to Brian Boitano in the Olympics. And so then he went off and became a figure skating coach and of women's figure skaters, and ended up marrying one of his students, actually. And they're wonderful people. Scott and Amari are wonderful people. And anyway, they do probably, I think, about 30 to 40 ice rinks around the country every year. And they're almost all of them are staffed by their people, and they hire locals to run it at minimum wage. And when I came to them with this idea, I said, we can't afford you guys we can't afford to pay you to be here. It's not going to pencil out. And that, going back to our discussion with Edna Peterson, I went back to Edna. I said, Edna, we can't afford this. This is going to be, there's no way we can do it. And Edna, she looked at me in the eye and said, Mark, this community can make this happen. And she was right. And Edna really helped us decide to go for it. But fast forward to now, and Ice America, they just love, they come here, they drop it off, they help us set it up, and then they leave. And that's not normal for them. They'll be back again in January to pick it up, but that's not a normal thing for their business model. But they love coming here because we kind of, over time, we've got it figured out. We're not hard, we're easy to deal with because we've run the rink ourselves, and we're almost employees of Ice America, actually, just because we know almost as much as they do at this point about ice management. And I've learned so much myself. I didn't know a thing about ice management, or ice for that matter. And now I'm kind of like a ice expert on how to make great ice. And it's not it's definitely a science. There's things you can learn about it, and I'm not going to go into all that, but it's really interesting stuff. But they love
And
coming because they also love the community. They love our location. As we
Yeah.
all know, we love living here, and they're stuck down in Long Beach, or Irvine, so they can come up here, and they love coming here.
So how many years ago was it that the tent collapsed? And I think it was Jamestown's tent
It was.
that you were,
Yeah.
tell us about that.
We were borrowing Jamestown's tent the first 2 seasons. It was in the second season that at the very end, January 14th, 2020. That's how my 2020 started out. And yeah, so January 14th, it collapsed. And so we did have some insurance on it, and so did Jamestown. And what we ended up doing was we gave them we paid them with our insurance that we got paid on it, and then they used their own. And then the chamber and Jamestown partnered to buy 2 tents to replace the one that came down. So that's why Jamestown still has a tent, and now we have our own tent. And we were able to have a cost savings because we were buying 2. We got a good deal on buying 2 tents. So they were very gracious. If someone destroys your tent, you tend to not be too happy with them, but they were really wonderful. They were really wonderful people, and they still are. We collaborate. They borrow our tent sometimes. That's part of the deal, is that they can use our tent because they sometimes have demand for more than one tent, so they use our tent sometimes, and we help each other out. So
Yeah.
it's a great
I
collaboration.
see Joe Allen is on.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Colleen.
Oh,
What was that
go ahead, Rebecca.
What was that story about the repair that you had to do and the cameras? They were kind of able to walk you through repairing it through the cameras or something?
Oh yeah. That was a fun little story. That happened this season actually. So Albright Networks helps us, as does Astound Broadband, in creating that skatecam.org. So you can go to skatecam.org and see what's going on at the rink at all times, 24/7, which is kind of fun. We also track that. We generally have about 400 people on skatecam.org from around the world, and I mean around the world. I've gotten comments from people like in Australia whose granddaughter is living here in Port Angeles and skating, and they can watch their granddaughter skate on skatecam.org from Australia. It's kind of fun. Plus, moms and dads can keep track of their kids who say they're going to the ice rink, and they can say, well, I'll see if I see you on skatecam.org or not. Anyway, it's a great capability. But this season we did have a leak, which happens from time to time. We had a leak in the aluminum tubes that go underneath that keep the water chilled down to ice, and it was a little pinhole leak. And like I said, it happens once in a while, and we have a repair kit that we can use. But what Rebecca's talking about is I called Ice America and said, okay, we got a leak, guys. And so they said, yeah, we were just looking at skatecam.org and we saw you guys were working on something there. And they kind of talked us through, the process, the step-by-step process. Turn off the pump, get the vacuum cleaner out, because we have to vacuum up all the antifreeze that's leaking out, and then the repair process and everything. So it actually worked out pretty good.
Very good. That's cool that Albright helped you with that.
Yeah, Albright's been great. Yep, they've been there every year. Albright's been. They show up. I call. They show up. They're awesome.
Mm-hmm. I just pulled up skatecam.org. You can see people kind of working.
They're working, and we're getting ready to open at 9 o'clock, which is,
Yeah, right around the corner. And what are your hours?
So we're always 9 to 9 except for school days. And on school days, we open 12 to 9.
Okay,
And I'm starting to consider maybe going to 12 to 9 most of the time, just because we don't have very many people that get up early in the morning, but not many
Yeah.
people are skating between 9 and noon. So
Mhm.
we might,
Mark, what are your hours on Christmas Eve?
Christmas Eve is 9 to 9.
Okay,
Wow.
Christmas Day will be noon to 9.
okay.
We're not opening up on Christmas morning.
Okay, because
So
you're doing some other important things.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And everybody should.
Yep, yep, absolutely. So do you have some expert skaters that come out and, that are really amazing to watch?
We do. Turns out there's a lot of former hockey players, and some of them are like in the Coast Guard,
Huh.
and some of them just live here, and they used to be hockey players and that sort of thing, and they've got their own skates, and they're beautiful to watch because their movements are, I don't want to say graceful, they're effortless. They just glide on the ice. It's like they were born there or something. And it's fun to watch the hockey players who have a lot of ice time are really fun to watch. And then we also have some figure skaters. There's a young lady that lives here. I think she's from the Ukraine, and she basically grew up on skates, I think, in Ukraine. And so and she comes out, and it's really fun to watch somebody who's really comfortable on skates. Then we have a couple locals that have gotten really good skating down there. And so we also, I haven't gotten an update yet, but tonight at 6:00, hold on a minute, I just got the update, so it's not happening. But we had scheduled the Bremerton Figure Skating Club, which we've done every season. They were supposed to be here at 6:00 tonight to do their demonstration, but they just canceled, so they won't be here. But it is fun to watch the Bremerton Figure Skating Club. They bring about 15 or 20 young ladies, and they do, all kinds of stuff. And we usually have hundreds of people down there watching it, but yeah, not tonight.
And so tell us what the cost is for adults and kids, seniors.
Yes, it's that's another thing that Ice America can't believe is that we only charge, because they open rinks in Orlando and Las Vegas and Boston, all over the place, and we only charge $15 to skate all day, for an adult, and $10 for a kid. You can skate all day. That's not the rate that's charged around the country. I can guarantee that. And most ice rinks operate, because we run the Zamboni about every 3 hours, and so most ice rinks operate where you pay for the session in between Zambonis, and you can skate, and then when the Zamboni goes, your session's over. You can buy another session if you want, but we don't do it that way. Once you buy your ticket, then you're good to go for the whole rest of the day.
Okay.
So it's also $10 if you're over 65 or under 12, over 65, or if you're active duty military.
Very good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Another thing I want to say, there's so much to talk about with the ice rink. There's really literally hundreds of items that are connected to it. But one of the things I do want to say is we've had, besides great sponsors that keep coming back every year, they're awesome. A new phenomenon that's starting to happen is organizations are starting to do like takeovers, where they take over the whole day of all the volunteer slots. And that's starting to get more popular. We've been doing it since the beginning, but more and more are starting to do it. It's really wonderful to see. The Port Angeles School District took over a day this year, and we had Marty Brewer out there, serving hot chocolate for about 3 hours. I think he got tired of making hot chocolate after a while, but he was great about it. The Kiwanis Club took over a day. The food bank, the PA Food Bank, took over a day. The city of Port Angeles staff came down. All the department heads were down there. Nathan West was handing out skates with Chief Smith. They were in the skate shack handing out skates. McKinley Paper took over a day. This year was a Saturday. They were busy. Local Coast Guard Port Angeles station took over a day, and then coming up, we have Lincoln Park BMX is taking over. I think it may be this Saturday, but they're coming up pretty soon. Lincoln Park BMX is taking over a day, and then the Port Angeles Yacht Club. So it's truly a community building activity, and we're really thankful for all the people and the organizations that make it happen. So I want to get to the next topic that which is my insanity, and it's really based on the proof of concept really of this ice rink in the downtown of Port Angeles as an economic generator, and it's going to sound a little bit strange, I think, from an economic development standpoint, but we've decided we're going to try to do a roller skating rink in the downtown Port Angeles. Same location, same tent, same. We own the dasher boards that go around the perimeter, so we're going to use those as well. And we're going to make a roller skating rink in the summer. So you might ask, why are you trying to do economic development in the summer? We don't need more people in the summer. Well, our perspective on it is not so much that we're not going to try to attract more people to come here. We don't think people are going to come to Port Angeles to roller skate in the summer, right? We don't think we're going to increase our numbers, which we don't really need, or actually, so from some perspectives, we don't want more people coming here in the summer, right? So, but we are going to try to improve the experience so that when people come to visit Port Angeles, what's there to do here besides hiking and all the other wonderful things we have to offer? Well, you can go roller skating. And where would that be? That would be in downtown Port Angeles, where it turns out through our studies that we were doing for Elevate PA, we found that there's a lot of people that come to our area who never make it into the downtown business district. They go right by. Mm-hmm. They turn left on Lincoln, or they turn left on Race and right on Lordson, and or they don't even go that far. They just turn left on Race and go up to Hurricane Ridge and then back to Seattle. They never make it to the downtown of, and we do have empirical data on that through Buxton. It was a great. They do mobile phone tracking, which is how they can show where people actually go. So people don't come into the downtown. So what we're going to try to do is attract those who are here into the downtown, and then also, again, I think it's going to be a community building activity, especially for kids in the summertime. Something for them to do. And I think also just the joy of living in Port Angeles. People used to love roller skating here, but we don't have a roller skating rink anymore. So many people have said, we want a roller skating rink. Well, it turns out Ice America also provides a roller skating surface. And so we're going to be working with Ice America to do the roller skating rink. And the insanity part is, you guys can tell I'm beat up right now, and I don't want to also give up my summer, right? So, so I'm a little bit crazy to try to pull this off, but I think we can do it, and I'm also it's gonna be less expensive because we don't have to rent a chiller and all the antifreeze and all the other things that are required to make ice. Roller skating rink will be a lot less expensive to operate. So we might be able to hire Ice America to help us run that one. But I'm looking at all kinds of different options right now. But I'm excited about bringing a roller skating rink into the downtown, because that parking lot where we do it doesn't even get very many parking. People don't use it that much, even in the summer, in the height of summer. So anyway, that's kind of what we're planning on doing there for the roller skating rink.
Very good. Cool.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to bring up, Colleen, for this group here that the Chamber's working on for 2023 is, hold on, someone's asking a question about roller skating. So that's a good suggestion, Patricia. We are partnered with Blackball. They're one of our great sponsors, and they help us put the rink together. Actually, we use their forklifts and all kinds of stuff to pull it off. But we are going to partner with them on roller skating as well to try to get the word out to their passengers, both Canadians coming over on the boat and then those waiting to get on the boat. They park and they go over and roller skate and then come back and get on the boat. So we'll be doing that. But I also wanted to just float another plan that we're working on for 2023 with you guys. We are, we put on we produced the Clallam County Job Fair twice a year in March and October. Of course, that hasn't happened because of COVID. We can't gather people indoors very easily because of COVID. So we haven't done it. We did do it in October. We had a job fair in October. We're going to do another one in March. But this year we're adding what we're calling a volunteer fair. And that's meant for not so much for employers, which a job fair is, but for nonprofits. So many nonprofits rely on volunteers to get done what they need to get done. And nobody knows that better than the Chamber of Commerce. We don't exist without our volunteers, actually. So we're going to try to run a volunteer fair. And the idea there is that we think there's a lot of people in the community that would love to volunteer, but they're not really sure how to contact someone to volunteer. They're not sure what volunteer opportunities there are out there. So we feel like if we have a volunteer fair, we can attract some of the residents in the area to come down and see what's available at the fair and just talk to the different organizations, all the nonprofits. And there are so many wonderful volunteer opportunities in our area, and it's the heart of our community. And we're going to try to see if this volunteer fair actually works and if it's helpful to get people to discover volunteer opportunities and also sign up. And that'll be hopefully the first part of April. So in the first part of April, we'll do we'll invite all the nonprofits to come, free of charge, set up a booth, talk about your nonprofit and your volunteer opportunities, sign people up for your event or whatever else you're doing. So a lot of nonprofits need volunteers year round. And so they can sign up right there. It'll be at Vern Burton most likely. And so that's another thing we're adding for 2023 that we're pretty excited about. We partner with the Swim Chamber also on the job fairs. So we're going to do the same thing for the volunteer fair as well, as far as producing the event. But all nonprofits will be eligible to come have a booth there.
Well, that's awesome, Mark. And if you'd like, we would love to be able to help you advertise that. So make sure you give us the information. We have about 7,000 people on our list. And so we've done some online job fairs before in partnership with ESD.
Yeah, you guys, EDC was great to help do the job fair virtually during COVID. That was absolutely great.
Yeah. So anyway, we'd love to help you advertise that to get more people there that have openings. And also I'm regularly working with the Olympic Workforce Development Council and the and Employment Security Department that creates the occupation in demand list.
Yeah.
And they just gave me the most recent version from December, and it is once again completely wrong, and so I am giving them input back based on our surveys as to what our real in demand list is. So love to make sure that the data there gets transferred. And we are unfortunately considered part of Kitsap County, yet our workforce only represents 12% of the total. So we're trying to make sure that they have that information right, because if we want to do training programs at the high schools or the college for certain sectors that really need more employees, they will only fund that if it says it's in demand and not balanced or in decline on that list.
Right.
So really
that's
love to help.
it's been a long problem that you've identified. We've talked about it, Colleen, you and I, and it's a frustration.
The good thing
I'm really counting on you to stay, you know, and
in that lane.
we're very happy that Colleen is very, you know, focused on this. Thank you for doing that, because it's a problem. And,
Yeah. Well, we're fixing it. So I had a meeting with the, we had a meeting with the commissioner from Employment Security Department, and she said, we will give us information, and we did those surveys. So based on the surveys, I am able to have a direct path for them to correct it. So they just sent that to me. And again, wrong, it's wrong. And so I was able to give them our empirical data that we got to show that, hey, this is actually in demand, and you didn't include this. And so we are changing that. And I was just working with the hospital, and I should send it to you, Michael, as well. Like, what are the openings in the healthcare sector too? So
huge.
Yeah. And a lot of them they showed as balanced, in decline, or not listed. So anyway, so sorry to take you off track.
Well, no, it's really, I think it's on track. I think it's actually as all this development's happening in Port Angeles and in the county, you know, with hotels being built, and you know, just lots of development. The Philadelphia Events Hall is going to be hiring people. I mean, our workforce demands are changing, growing, and so what you're doing with all the workforce development stuff is really important. It's going to be even more important, I think, you know, 3 years from now than it even was 3 years ago. It's gonna, you know, it's just gonna get, so the problem that we have is just gonna get worse. But that's why I'm so happy that you're working on this, Colleen. It's a big deal, and we all need to thank you for all the work you're doing on that. It's a big deal.
Well, right back at you. The stuff you're doing is just terrific, and I love how we've created our lanes. You know, where we're not competing, we're helping everyone and helping each other. So anyway, enough about me. Go back to all the other projects you're doing. You got 11 minutes left, and I know you've got so much to talk about.
Well, I mean, I think I've kind of spilled all the beans I have for 2020. I mean, 2023 is going to be a lot like 2022, except we are going to bring back some things we couldn't do, like the Maritime Festival that we haven't done for, I don't know, what, 3 years now. We haven't been able to do the Maritime Festival. So we're working with the Coast Guard and the port on doing that the second week in June. And the Port of Port Angeles is celebrating their 100th year anniversary this next year. So they're even more motivated, I think, to work with us on doing a Maritime Festival, because the maritime economy is a big factor here locally, and our history, and I think our future is what the Maritime Festival is really going to be all about. We're going to be adding a career tent to the Maritime Festival, where the maritime employers can, you know, talk about, you know, maritime careers and that kind of thing. So and plus we're going to get, you know, a bunch of boats and all kinds of other fun stuff, Coast Guard demonstrations. And so that's going to happen again. We're bringing that back in 2023. The volunteer fair and the roller skating rink. Those are the three big things that are being added for 2023 from the Chamber's perspective. And then just getting better, you know, getting better at what we're doing. Another thing I should probably share that we're kind of excited about, not really excited, but it's kind of a cool thing. We discovered that that there's not a lot of organized outreach to the world's growing remote worker market, or remote worker demographic. And there is an organization that is starting to do this work, and they haven't done much in the United States, but they've done it in other countries, and it's actually been pretty successful. But by chance, we kind of hooked up with these guys, and so we are experimenting with a campaign that we're kicking off in January to try to make Clallam County a place for people to go to work remotely in the fall, winter, and spring. So we're gonna try to focus this campaign on those parts of the year, not the summer, right? And so come to Port Angeles, work from here for 2 or 3 weeks, and here's all the things you can do for 2 or 3 weeks while you're here working, and then in the evenings or on the weekends, these are some of the activities you can participate in. And so we're trying to tap into this, what they're called digital nomads. It's a growing part of our workforce internationally. And so that way we'll be able to fill more heads and beds in some of our Airbnbs, which is where typically remote workers will stay. They'll stay in Airbnbs, and we have more Airbnbs in Port Angeles per capita than I think anywhere else in the state. I don't know. Did I ever share with you, Colleen, that report from Airbnb?
Yes.
The top five communities in Washington State. Seattle is number 1 for Airbnb volume. Tacoma was number 2. No, Spokane. Spokane was number 2. Port Angeles was number 3.
I thought we were 2 and Spokane was 3.
No, we were
It was-
3.
Okay.
And Tacoma was 4, and Bellingham, I think, was 5.
Yeah, and if you consider population and number of dwellings,
it's
that's
straight.
crazy.
Yeah, well, it's straight volume. I mean, it's just straight volume. We were number 3 in the state for Airbnb volume, and then if you apply the per capita to that, we're definitely we blow everybody away. So we have a ton of Airbnbs in our area. It's not just inside city limits of Port Angeles. It's all throughout Clallam County, really, and it's a popular business for a lot of local people to have Airbnbs. So we're trying to find a way to help put heads and beds in those Airbnbs and just keep the economy going in the fall, winter, and spring. And we've also been considering the whole idea of how Airbnbs can take away from long-term rentals, and the short-term rental versus long-term rental phenomenon. We've been looking into that, and it turns out there's not that much overlap. So the overlap happens when you take an entire dwelling and turn it into a short-term rental. That's where it impacts the long-term dwelling availability, right? But there's not a whole lot of that going on. There is some, but it's a relatively small number. So it's a factor that needs to be looked at and watched and monitored. But people that come here and spend money does help our economy an awful lot. But we also still have this affordable housing and dwelling challenge. And we're hoping that projects like the one that's going up off of Olvers on I guess it's Lincoln and Olvers, right? It's the one up there up the hill. That's really
Laurel and Olvers.
That's right, Laurel. That's it, Laurel and Olvers. That project is going to bring a bunch of housing. Eric Dupar's project downtown with 100 condominiums is going to make a big impact, I think, on the availability of housing here. And so I think it's going to help a lot, and we need help badly. So anyway, I'm starting to jump around. I apologize.
That's all right. Yeah, so the Housing Solutions Committee of the county has been talking about that, and that having our cities and county all have the same policy rather than a patchwork quilt, I think is very important. And if you go on to airdna.com, I believe it is, it tracks how many properties are available on any particular date to rent. And I know when I looked at it last, there were in our county, there were 1,975 that were full homes that were, airdna.co. Trisha put it in the chat, that that I eliminated places where people were just offering their bedroom, you know, or but if it was an entire house that no longer is available for sale or no longer available for a long-term rental, that's what I counted, and there were 1,975 in our county,
Yeah.
which is a pretty good number. We have about 26,000, I think, in our county altogether. So it's, and when we did our surveying in the grocery stores, talking to people, and we interviewed over 500 people at grocery stores, so trying to get a really randomized number, a grouping rather, we found that about 6% of the people that we interviewed were remote workers, which was about what, you know, we had expected it to be. So the remote worker impact and the fact that, you know, we are such a tourist destination for people that are interested in short-term rentals has made our prices for smaller homes go up at a much higher rate than other areas.
That's true. Yeah. It's a challenge, and
It is.
yeah. So we do need more housing, and there's a lot of people working on that. So yeah.
Yep. All right. I see we have a couple new things in the chat. Does anyone want to ask any questions of Mark? All right. Well, 8:58, Mark. I could take you off the hook a couple minutes earlier than we had planned and give you your morning back. We so appreciate you coming on and helping us out, but more so, look at other chambers, and you know what our chamber directors and our chamber programs in our county are just amazing. And
we have great chambers. Yep.
We are lucky to have you guys here and doing all the amazing things you do. I mean, really, you operate several businesses within your chamber and don't rely just on membership. What you do is remarkable. So thank you very much for everything.
We love working with you guys, with EDC, with Beth at the Squim Chamber and Lissy at the Forks Chamber. We're all working, you know, together, and you know, and it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing to see, wonderful thing to be a part of.
Yep. Yeah. And very different from 10 years ago, for sure.
Correct. And from a lot of other communities. So we're lucky. So
all right.
Happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas, and you know, come ice skating. Try it out.
Yep. Merry Christmas, everyone.
All right.
I'm going to take my niece and nephew and brother there, and I hope I'm better than he is, because we've always been a little competitive. So
yeah.
I don't know that I will be.
Yeah. All right, Colleen.
All right. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Happy
Bye-bye.
2023.
Yeah, we'll see you in 2023. That's right. Okay. Bye-bye.